Criminal Justice to order.
I agree with you.
I would ask for approval of the minutes of the previous meeting. Supervisor Frazier, seconded by Supervisor Simpson. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That carries. Not seeing where's you, Bob, why don't we go ahead and start with probation since you're here, and we'll fit everybody else in as we go.
Good morning. I have a couple items on the action agenda which are actually a couple budgetary items we need to clean up from the previous year. And then I have one discussion item to bring to the attention of the board. The first resolution request I have is to amend the probation department's table of organization to decrease the salary of probation supervisor number 1 from $65,155 to $60,000. What happened was we had a retirement of one of our probation supervisors who was making the $65,111. We promoted an individual and we had the salary of we determined the salary to be $60,000. At the time when we did the notice of intent, we did not do a resolution to amend the table of organization. So that needs to be done to clean up the budget.
Okay, we have a motion from Supervisor Gerard. Do we have a second? Supervisor Dickinson, any discussion on this? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That one carries.
The next resolution request I have is to transfer the salary of a probation officer, $53,297 from our main budget. The probation department is made up of 3 budgets. 3140, which is the main budget, which has the majority of our individual staff and expenses, revenue. And we have 2 others, 3143, which has to do with our pretrial program, and 3144, which has to do with day reporting. Very small budget. During the course of budgets last year, we added a new senior probation position to our department, which in essence is a promotion of an individual from a probation officer to a senior probation officer. And what happened was we deleted the wrong individual at the time of the budget. And at the December Finance Committee meeting, I made a resolution to correct that. Well, what happened was the funds were never transferred from 3140, where we deleted the individual, to 3143, where the current person is. So in essence, we have no salary line in 3143, which is the pretrial budget. So what I would like to do is to correct that and transfer $53,297 from probation 3140 to probation pretrial.
Okay, motion by Supervisor Simpson. Do we have a second? Supervisor Dickinson, any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That one carries.
Thank you. We will have, we've had 1 person retire. We have 2 more retiring, so we're going to be filling 3 positions and promoting 2 senior POs. So I might be back up here massaging the budgets again. So I apologize for any of that may happen. The other discussion item I'd like to bring to the board's attention is last year there was a big push to raise the age of criminality. In New York State, criminality is currently the age of 16. And in last year, let me go back, the governor proposed to raise the age last year, and it was a pretty big push by the governor with respect to raising the age of criminality from 16 to 18. New York is only one of 2 states that doesn't have it. North Carolina is the other. A lot of people thought that would go through in the budget last year, but it didn't. It's a complicated bill, and it's got a lot of moving parts and affects a lot of agencies. The Senate was particularly against it, and it didn't go through. The governor's cleaned the bill up a little bit this year, and it's in his budget. So I want to bring that to everybody's attention. I think because in the ensuing weeks and months will be a big push for that to go through by the governor. It's something that he wants to do, and I think it's something that eventually he gets. I provided some information with respect to it. There's a lot of things there, but I think for now the important thing to remember is a couple things. The age of criminality is 16 in New York, and if it goes up to 18, what that does is it brings those individuals, 16 and 17-year-olds, who currently have misdemeanor and felony charges from the adult criminal justice system to the juvenile justice system, where probation does a lot of work. The last statistics I have were in 2013, which indicated that meant about 100 individuals. Those numbers have gone down. They're probably in the neighborhood of 70. The current bill also calls for including of violations in this bill. People arrested for discon and harassment. That's something we don't deal with in diversion and juvenile justice system now, because that's not a crime, that's a violation. So the points of interest are, if this happens, it's going to shift about 70 or 80 people more into my department, where we would do mostly diversion work. A lot of these people are going to be low risk. They're going to be referred out of the system. If not, they're going to work with probation and diversion for up to 180 days. And you know, that means obviously more work for us and potentially more staff. The governor has indicated in his budget that all costs to probation, local district attorneys, or excuse me, local social services would be 100% reimbursable. You know, he's put money in the budget. We'll see what happens. The governor in the state of New York has not been a good friend to probation through the years in terms of funding. I mean, obviously, if this goes through, not only does it need to be funded for this year, next year, or whenever, it needs to sustain. And the other point, too, is if this bill does pass, there would be a transition period where 16 and 17-year-olds would be in effect in 2018, and then the 17 to 18-year-olds would be in effect in 2019. One thing the governor did do by an executive order this year was to make an order to remove 16 and 17-year-olds from state prison. They're working on having a facility upgraded so they take those individuals out. In his budget proposal, in his bill proposal, he talks about not having any 16 and 17-year-olds in local jails. You know, what does that mean? OCFS, which in essence they disbanded years ago, was looking to develop facilities to take care of these kids, because some of these kids are just not going to make it, and they're going to need some type of services where they're going to be detained. Berkshire Farms, which used to operate across the street, is no longer there because I think that counties, including Warren County, Washington, Saratoga, that utilized it, did a pretty good job with not accessing detention. We found better ways to do things. So if this does go up, you know, again, all these kids, you know, some of them are not going to make it in the community, and they may need detention. So that's going to increase that. The governor has indicated that there would be 100% reimbursement for those types of things also. So just something to be aware of is the possibility it could go through. I think it's in the early stages. Again, the Senate was against it last year. I don't know what their feelings are this year, but we'll see what happens. But I wanted to bring that to everybody's attention. And should it get closer, or should I hear more, or should it go through, I'll bring it back with specifics and different things of how I think it will affect our department. So it's out there again. It would be a big shift for us, and the other part is it would be phased in. So it wouldn't happen immediately. It would happen in 2018 and then 2019.
Okay, thank you, Bob. Any questions for Bob? All right, well, thank you.
Thank you.
Move on now to assigned counsel.
Morning.
Morning.
Mine is easiest, fastest one going today. I need a resolution request to delete the assistant to assigned council administrator job title from Oils Contract 552 and to amend the table of organization to reflect such change. Change will allow the fully funded part-time position to be filled at no cost to Warren County and will provide access to a much wider pool of candidates to fill same.
Okay, do we have a motion to get this on the floor? Supervisor Dickinson, seconded by Supervisor Sieber. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that carries, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Marcy?
Yes. I have one for you. Do you mind passing this down? Thank you. When I have attorneys who work on weekends and nights and holidays, I need a form to get done in Nova time to give them payment in lieu of a holiday. So if someone is working on a Monday holiday, they need to take a day off during the week in order to reflect that. If someone's days off are Sunday and Monday and there's a Monday holiday, that person is entitled to a day off on another day. So that's the purpose of this resolution. It would be under the codification under Human Resources and Personnel, Section 6.012, non-union holidays. Mr. Dusick and the county attorney have already reviewed it and determined that this language is appropriate. It would really only apply to non-union people, which would be my office, the DA's office, county attorney, so I don't see this as a huge issue, but I'd like it codified so that when my people need to take a day off, because they worked a holiday, I can then enter it in overtime.
Okay, I have a motion by Supervisor Gerard, seconded by Supervisor Dickinson. Any discussion or questions? Supervisor Seaver?
Would this then also be applicable, you just said to the county attorney, or that they may have the same
They-
situation, county attorney,
Right.
the DA, and probation? So
Not
will we,
probation,
oh, I'm sorry,
because
not
they're union.
public assist, sorry. So DA and county attorney, so will this form, if we approve it today, also be applicable to those departments?
If they were to use it, it would be applicable. They don't have to use it.
Right.
Okay.
Supervisor Braman, did you have a question?
That was my question too, does this then need to go to legislative and rules?
It'll probably go, I believe, to personnel. Wouldn't it go forward to personnel? I'm not sure with the committee structure, we got a little shift. I know it's definitely gotta go all the way to the full board, but I don't know if it has to make another stop in
It-
transit.
I think right now, this was
It's on
just,
personnel.
I'm sorry,
It's on the personnel
Okay.
committee agenda already. So it will leave here, it would go to personnel, be approved there, that's also finance, they're all joined now, and then from there it would have to go to the full board for approval. Any other questions? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That carries.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to let you know that next month, I'm gonna need 15 minutes. I need to go through some oils contracts that needed extensions, so I wanted to give you a heads up in advance. Okay?
Excellent.
Thank you very much. Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone.
All right, emergency services.
I'll just have quickly move.
We're gonna lose it here shortly, Jim. We're getting the expedient ones out of the way.
Should have a clock over here.
I'll set Brian whenever.
Item number one of our action items, resolution request to approve revisions and supporting annexes to the Warren County Comprehensive Emergency Management Plan. This document is the overarching plan for response plans within the county. As soon as
Motion.
Amy is done handing that out, she will give us a quick explanation of it.
In the handouts, we had the 2016 10th update summary. A lot of this is the normal stuff we do every single year. There's name changes, we seem to find some typos, table of contents. Some of the more significant changes would be the mitigation sections. This has to do with the hazard mitigation plan that we're doing right now. We want to make sure that the hazard mitigation plan and the mitigation section of this plan mirror each other, so we made some significant changes there. We have the most recent hazard analysis is in here, and then there's sections like Section D where it has the Warren County facts. We just update that every single year.
Okay, I think we had a motion from Supervisor Simpson and a second from Supervisor Gerard. Did I see your hand there? Any discussion? Questions? All right, hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That carries.
Very good, thank you. Number two, resolution request for a contract with MDC, Rich Moran's Professional Scuba Centers, for a cost not to exceed $25.27. This is for training of a member of the sheriff's dive team, and through our budget line that we have for special teams, which includes the Marine Rescue Team, we have a section in there where we have budgeted for training.
All right, do we have a motion? Supervisor Dickinson, seconded by Supervisor Bramer. Any questions? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries.
Thank you. Number three, travel approval for myself to attend the Officer Interoperable Communications Conference in Oriskany on March 29 and 30. This is the annual meeting that they have where they bring all the heads of all the consortiums, the radio consortiums together to discuss the funding and the goals and where we're headed with that. So there is no cost to the county for that.
All right, do we have a motion? Supervisor Frazier. Do we have a second? Supervisor Brock. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries.
Number four, travel approval for myself, Scott Combs, and Amy Hurst to attend the ILO Intelligence Liaison Officer Conference in Lake Placid. this is the conference where we get updated on what's going on, and Amy will be trained, to become another ILO for our county. And, we don't have the official schedule yet, or the agenda, so we're not sure whether we're staying over or not staying over. Depends how early in the morning that they start, so, that may or may not happen as far as lodging, but we are going to be traveling.
All right, do we have a motion, Supervisor Gerard, seconded by Supervisor Simpson. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries.
Number 5, a request to apply for the FY16 Hazardous Materials Emergency Preparedness Planning Grant in the amount not to exceed $50,000.
Okay, do we have a motion? Supervisor Bramer, do we have a second? Supervisor McDonald? Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That carries.
All right, thank you. Number 6, resolution request to apply for the FY16 State Homeland Security Grant. We've been allotted $60,000 for that grant.
Okay, do we have a motion? Supervisor Frazier, seconded by Supervisor Dickinson. Any discussion? Supervisor Seaver?
Brian, I'm just a little concerned in your rationale here. You said that we hadn't received any guidance for this program yet. The turnaround time is usually very quickly. In the past, does it always work like this? I mean, I'm a little hesitant to approve something where I don't know what's being required of the county, or a deadline, or a time frame.
Oh, we know what the deadline is. It's March 29th.
Oh, what,
Which is why we are here today rather than at a later meeting. No, it doesn't specify that, I'm sorry. But we just received word that the deadline for those applications will be March 29th, which would cut us short if we don't discuss it today.
That makes
So,
sense.
yeah, I'm sorry,
Thank
we
you.
should have put that in there.
Any-
I'm sorry,
Go ahead.
the problem we have is the federal government is responsible. These are FEMA grants. They hand them to the state does whatever massaging they wanna do. By the time they get done, the end date hasn't changed that FEMA put out there. So by the time the state gets done, we got this last Thursday, or last Tuesday rather, and the application deadline is March 29th, and we don't even have the guidance yet as to what will or will not be allowed. But it is, there is no match involved.
So there's no match in this one, and I know we just approved number 5, but looking at that, that also did not have a deadline. Do you now have a deadline date for that?
The deadline that is the beginning of April. I don't have a specific date.
They're not giving us a lot of time to do these. And unfortunately, they tend to land on top of each other, so we're doing multiple applications at the same time.
But you're positive on that one in terms of the grant? You said those are soft funds.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Carries.
That's for you, that's it.
The next item on the agenda is a pending item from previous meetings, and this was also forwarded from the Finance Committee meeting. What I have given you is some documentation and a description of that documentation. I do not expect to go through this today unless you ask me to. I wanted everyone to have some of this documentation. We talk about this scenario at the meetings, and where you always get the, we don't know where, we don't know how much. I feel that those of you on the committee do not have enough information, which is my fault, I guess. I would prefer or like to at some point have a meeting where those interested can get together. I can do a PowerPoint and we can discuss this more seriously and go from there. I am at a point with this project where I can't bounce back and forth between committees anymore. We've been doing that for 4 years. So I would ask that the supervisors take a quick look at this. I understand some of it would need to be explained. I just wanted you to have the information, some of the current information that we have, and then when we actually have a meeting to discuss this, you will have some idea what we're talking about.
Thank you, Brian. I know we spoke after the last meeting. Some of the newer supervisors weren't as familiar with the project, and it seems prudent to take a few minutes, go back to the beginning, So Brian has spent some time preparing this for us all, and we'll have some time to review it, and then we'll come back to revisit it after the committee's had time to review and ask questions and feel more prepared. So thank you, Brian, for putting that together.
Yeah, let me know if you wanna do it as a special meeting, you wanna allow a little more time at the next committee meeting. I know there's a lot of people in these committee meetings and waiting in line, so I didn't wanna get, yes.
Claudia?
Can you just orient me to which one is currently on the table, or are there several proposals? I know this was done before.
That is one that came from, I can go through it very quickly if you'd like.
Yeah, so what
The first page, this is a list, this is just a scale drawing that tells you how much room we need. There's, people ask, well, what are you putting in there? This is the equipment that currently needs to be put inside the shelter. So, hence the dimensions that we've asked for. This picture is a comparable building that was built in Franklin County. It is not the same square footage, the square footage is listed there, just to give you an idea on what they built and what it cost for them. This was the cost that was originally provided by Clark Patterson, the engineer that we were told to hire to go over this project. Basically, they came back with a set of plans that looked just like the ones we had, however, they're in the correct form. And their original estimate for that building came in at over $900,000. I felt that was way out there. I met with the engineers and we clarified a number of the items, got us down to $268. I still am not sure that that's the number, but that's the number that we ended up with from the architect. This is the plot plan. This basically is a picture of our campus from here and on the other side of the Northway. Each one of those spots is numbered, and in your information that came with the packet, it will tell you what each one of those sites is and why we do or do not think it's viable. Okay?
Supervisor Seaver?
Is there some way, I know we've gone back and forth with this for quite some time now, and it seems like, we might pass it to facility passes it back to us, and we go back and forth on this, and I think that's what you're referring to when you're talking about jumping between committees. When Brian's prepared to do that presentation, is there a way to request that that be a joint, meeting with us and facilities so
I
that
think,
can be on one?
preliminarily, we had thought that we would bring Jeff Tennyson into our meeting,
Okay.
and have him there. Certainly, we could eventually do something joint with facilities if facilities is agreeable to that. I think it's a bit premature. I think one of the problems is we don't have Brian has an idea of what he needs, but I think we need to speak with the DPW staff and Jeff, get a firmer idea coming out of committee as to exactly what we're asking for. I think that's part of our problem, is we kind of know what we want, we don't really know where we're gonna put it. We need to have a firmer plan coming out so that the other committees can react accordingly, which is one of the reasons we're bringing it back to our committee and starting from the basics and moving forward. I would imagine someday it will probably be joint facilities, but, that'll be something Supervisor Gerard and I have to work out. Supervisor Gerard?
I think also, another piece is, finance.
Yes.
Because ultimately it gets there,
Yeah.
and if they don't approve the funding, we can talk all we want about what it's like.
Right.
But they need to be part of, if you wanna make it a three-committee operation.
I imagine that we will get to that point. In speaking with Jeff, I know I've spoken with Jeff as well, and some of it is in order to get the number for finance, we're gonna have to know exactly the size, the dimensions, exactly what we're doing so that we can have a firm number for finance. It's hard to send them, varying numbers, and right now we have a lot of contesting numbers. Supervisor Brock?
Couldn't we just stipulate that we all want the vehicles covered? That's basically our function as a committee. The details and costs really are facilities and finance. They can deal with that. And, I mean, I don't really need,
I think we've tried that, and it usually ends up right back here saying,
but we can.
okay, you want them covered, but how?
We're not facilities and we're not finance, and those are the two essential elements, not us,
Well, that's true, but I think Brian's input is important, so we'll review this and then come back to it, and maybe that is the direction the committee goes, but for now, let's just take the information and review it so that we can have a better conversation with Brian next time.
Supervisor Brock, you raised an excellent question, and at some point in time, whether you do it today or whenever, Warren County needs to decide whether you want to do this project or not. There are people in this room that definitely do not want to do this project, and I understand that, and that is what it is. At some point in time, there will have to be a vote, and people will have to raise their hand and say, yes, we want to cover this equipment, or no, we don't. And I understand the dollars are involved, the location is involved, all those things are involved. But if there are people that flat out don't want this project, then I'm spinning my wheels. So I would ask the group to look at it seriously. I would be glad to do any presentation, whatever you want, take you on a tour, whatever you would like to do to get more, get better advised of how this and what we needed it. You know, there are some things that I haven't told you about that are critical relative to this equipment getting covered and getting in an area. One of which is security, and I'm not going to go into that in an open forum. There are things that we need to talk about, and I would be glad to meet with any of you one-on-one, or as a group, or in a committee form. Thank you.
Okay, do you have an update on the hazard mitigation plan for us? Oh, Amy, there you are.
I do have one question about that.
Hold on just a sec, let's just get through the hazard mitigation, we'll come back to you. I did see your hand up, but I don't want to cut Amy off.
Absolutely.
First off, I want to thank everyone who participated in the hazard mitigation plan. We are hoping by the end of the week that the first draft will be 100% complete and up on the website. At that point in time, we'll have approximately 45 days for public comment. That also means that if any of the incorporated jurisdictions within Warren County want to tweak their plans, they thought of something else, please let us know. There's a link right there on the website. The website is www.warrencountynyhmp.com, or you can go to the Emergency Services website. There's a link that'll take you directly there. If you have any comments, you can either call myself or Jim Liebram up in Soil and Water. He's 623-3119. And then we'll be submitting it to the state probably late April.
Excellent.
Thank you all.
All right, Matt?
I know I'm new to this whole project, you know, what exactly is the issue, why this is taking 4 years to get a coverage?
Partially there's funding issues,
4 years?
Well, it's been tight since about 2009, so yeah, I've just sat through budget. You know, we've got a number of financial issues. And another situation is location. Originally, when we first started talking about this, we were going to put it right out here by the building. Now we're building a court, so that would no longer be a suitable place.
Right.
So there have been a number of pending issues. There's also some discussion about appropriate location, not just where the court was. So it's an ongoing thing. I certainly understand Brian's frustration. 4 years is a long time, which is why we brought it back to committee to start again, and hopefully we'll get some traction this round. Brian, did you have anything else for us?
I'm good. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right, we'll move on then to the sheriff's.
Where are your weapons?
Are you for the thing, or, yeah, that's nice. That's good idea.
I think they have to have it, you need to cover it yourself.
$500,000 worth of equipment.
Stuff is expensive and just sit
We got
out
places
here.
that don't do it. The problem is he doesn't want to put it.
It gets sent out to everyone.
We got Perkins building down on Warren Street, half empty.
That is a long way away.
Somebody's paying rent,
We met with a woman.
the whole building.
So we just need to,
Well, see, yeah, the problem is the leadership is taking off on this board. Spent $6,000 for them.
I get calls, you have 3 communities, you have 3 different ones.
Scrambling.
Well, it's more than.
I'm the host community, but part of the award
There's a lot of things on the
Sorry we forgot you.
Hey, what?
We should have done it on the
Airport.
Well, that's what I found out.
Giving more out. I mean, let's just,
Before it came here, they should have had a lot.
but you know what's gonna happen is we have to go back.
It was not a day.
Was that John?
Wait, a rock and a hard place.
Well, we all are.
Yeah, me too, that's why I'm.
All right, go ahead. Good morning.
I have a relatively short list this morning.
Excellent.
On the action agenda, item A is request a resolution for a new contract with Tyler Technologies for a software upgrade for CAD software in the communication center. It's a little over $93,000. This, expenditure that we're gonna make is gonna be reimbursed by, grant funding that we have
In total, Sean?
entirely.
All right, do we have a motion, Supervisor Gerard, second by Supervisor Dickinson? Any discussion? Supervisor Brock?
Yeah, why, excuse me, why do you need CAD software? What-
We have, in our agency, for law enforcement and communications, we have two major software programs. One is the computer-aided dispatch,
Oh,
which is
okay.
what runs the 911 center, the communications center, and the other is called Records Management System, which is RMS.
Right.
They're both provided to us by New World Software.
Well, I'm used to calling CAD computer-aided design, you know, which is school systems.
Okay.
So that, okay, I should have asked you.
Okay.
That question understood.
And it's technically, it's New World Systems, but they were bought out by another company last year, so now it's become Tyler Technologies. It's all the same.
Any other questions? Supervisor Seaver?
Sean, I thought, I'm sorry, I'm losing my voice, but I thought,
Scribbling yesterday.
I was screaming on the bobsled yesterday. Matt lost his hearing. So, I thought there was some increased cost from the combination with dispatch and Glens Falls, that you mentioned to us a few months ago. Am I imagining that?
Increased costs for what?
When dispatch combined with the county, the two systems weren't compatible. I thought maybe I heard that on the tour, or...
When we took over the dispatching for the Glens Falls Police Department, which I believe was 2012, we got away from New World Software. We went to a company called Impact. It was probably one of the biggest mistakes we ever made. When something appeared to be too good to be true, in this case it was. So in 2013, we got back to New World. We'd been with them for over 20 years. There were extra costs included because we absorbed Glens Falls dispatching. That was 4 years ago.
Okay, maybe that's what it was from.
Any other questions? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries.
Item B is request a resolution for a new contract with Lindstar for maintenance agreement of our ID printer and software system.
We have a motion. Supervisor Dickinson, seconded by Supervisor Bramer. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries.
Item C, request a resolution to extend a contract with Justice Benefits Incorporated. It's a revenue stream. They get us money from the State Criminal Alien Assistance Program, and last year they brought in just over $7,500 to Warren County.
Motion by Supervisor Dickinson, seconded by Supervisor Brock. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Item D is request permission to have Investigator Bruno, Patrol Officer Wolf, attend search warrant training at the Mohawk Valley Police Academy.
Motion by Supervisor Dickinson, seconded by Supervisor Simpson. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries.
Item E is request permission to have Sergeant William Gerard attend Civil Division Supervisor training in Saratoga Springs. He was recently promoted to the sergeant's position with the retirement of Kevin Sell.
Motion by Supervisor Dickinson, seconded by Supervisor Brock. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any
Tim
opposed?
Gerard's are everywhere.
Okay. We have-
Item F is request permission to have Investigator Gildersleeve, Patrol Officer Lopez, Patrol Officer St. John, and Patrol Officer Palmer attend the New York State Tactical Officer 2016 conference, which is held in Verona, New York. The cost for this conference would be covered out of asset forfeiture money.
We have a motion from Supervisor Simpson, second from Supervisor Dickinson. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries. Anything else under your topics for discussion that you need to bring forward today?
I had nothing today.
Okay, thank you. Just before we move on then, as many of you know, we had received another communication from the City of Glens Falls regarding police consolidation. The chairman has worked very hard to prepare a letter, and it's gone back and forth between himself and myself for the end of last week. What I'd like to do now is pass it out. Essentially, the chairman would like us to have a look at it and approve it so that we can send it out. We want to be responding to Glens Falls as quickly as we possibly can, but we didn't want to move forward without the committee's approval. So what I will do, it's in draft format now. if the committee approves it, then we'll get it in a final format and get it off to the city as soon as possible. Pass that out and give everybody a minute to review it.
The last letter that he sent?
Madam Chair?
Sure.
While they're reading that, can I just mention something other
Absolutely.
than this? I just wanna update you, some of you may know that the, federal seized asset, policy has been changed by the federal government. They say they no longer are going to give local money for being involved in the task force. As you know, that's been a huge revenue for this county in the last 8 years. Something we're not happy about. For the time being, we're leaving our investigator attached to that unit because we think that the federal government's gonna change their mind on this. They did this once about 12 or 13 years ago. There was such an uproar, that the federal government changed its mind. If they don't change their mind, that's a huge blow to the revenue stream for this county. And certainly, if they're not going to give us revenues, we will pull our asset, our investigator, off the team and bring him back into the county to work strictly in the county. In the meantime, what I started a week ago, we have a part-time investigator that worked the Marine Patrol, who was an undercover narcotics investigator for the state police for years, probably one of the best that they had. CNAT, the Capital Narcotics Enforcement Team, which is done by the state police, has a similar program, and they said if we attached one of our persons to them, that we would be able to keep all the seized asset money that he's involved with. So we're doing this with a part-time officer. They allowed us to do that with a part-time officer. We're gonna see how it goes. We're gonna be involved with the state police capital narcotics team, and hopefully that can bring us some revenues as well. I know the drug dealers aren't going away, so we need to put our assets where it's important, and I think this is one for a part-time position that can really gain some momentum for us. So I just wanted to update you on that. That's what we're doing, and I will keep you posted on how that goes.
Thank you, Sheriff. Supervisor Seaver.
Just for Sheriff York? Is it helpful at all to have a letter of support from our Board of Supervisors asking that the asset forfeiture remain intact going to the local shares? I know federally they don't, the U.S. Attorney doesn't receive a portion of asset forfeiture, so it wouldn't surprise me to see different models.
It probably would always help, just so you know that next week, 11 of us sheriffs that are in Elise Stefanik's area, we're gonna have a conference call with her. We've all written letters to her to go to bat for us at the federal level, so she's gonna sit down with us in a conference call next week, and I will keep you posted. If that's something that she suggests we do, I will let you know. But I think with her and Chris Gibson, who will also be pushing for us at the congressional level, this should be helpful.
Thank you. All right. Has everybody had a chance to read over the draft? I'd open it up at this point for discussion. Are we okay? Do we want to make some changes? Supervisor Seaver.
I have two questions. I know the first letter that came, that we sent over to the mayor was on February 4th. And perhaps you sent this out, Evelyn, and I just didn't catch it. But where's the second letter that the mayor sent to the county with a revised proposal?
We received that last week, I think it was, and it was sent out to everybody.
That email with all the larger?
No, that was the CEMP that I sent out. Amanda had sent out to all of us, the mayor had sent us a copy of the city council's resolution. There were a number of things attached there.
Okay, I saw the resolution, but I must not have gone far enough, so I need to read that. But secondly, I don't see where this, and this is a concern of mine, and I don't know if you're able to address it, Evelyn, in a letter or at a different point, but I attended the neighborhood meeting that both Jim and Matt and Claudia were at, that Matt hosted last week, to get a sense for what Glenn Spalls was saying about this issue. And I, of course, will defer to them to give you their take on what happened there. But one specific question that came up was about the referendum. And I guess I'm wondering, are we able to get an answer on, one, is a referendum required? And two, I mean, does that, what's the timeline on that? Does that happen first?
That would
or-
be the last sentence of the first paragraph where it says, "Our next step should be to establish a timeline detailing the steps that are legally necessary and in what order they need to be completed." It is paramount that we do that. So certainly we believe that should be the next step. Honestly, I don't know if the referendum is or not. I'm not that familiar with the city charter. I'm certainly not an attorney, so that would be something that we logistically would need to detail out next. So that would kind of address that. When we had that information, then we would know yes or no about the referendum, and at what point in the process, like, do we have to do the referendum before we start talking further, or can we do that later in the process? Those are the questions that we do need answered.
Because I'm wondering, and I know your hand's up, Dennis, I'm sorry, but just to expand on that, I know, legally, I talk quick, legally necessary, I'm just wondering if they'll just make a determination based on their city council, or is it based on the PBA's attorney? Like, I just hope that they're gonna give us more information on, how they've come to that determination, whether that referendum is needed or not. So you're saying the legally necessary verbiage here is enough to include the referendum?
Well, I would say, if the referendum is legally necessary, then it certainly would have to be included.
Okay.
Dennis?
Thank you.
Thank you. I have a question about, I'm a little fuzzy about what we're doing here. We asked them, properly so, to hire somebody to help, professional. My question is, how much is that? Is there actually monies available, and does it cover the whole cost? And if it doesn't, what is our obligation in that cost of that report?
As I understand, there is some consolidation money available, and certainly the mayor has made reference to there being some available. As to what the final number would be, that I'm not certain. I know the sheriff might be able to give us an idea of what those studies are costing.
Yeah, my recollection from the one that CGI did for the Jamestown, Chautauqua County some 4 or 5 years ago now, I think that was in the vicinity of $60,000 back then to do those studies. I do understand that there are a lot of consolidation monies, and that's probably out there, but someone would have to apply for it, and I would assume the city would have to apply for it to do the study.
Well, I guess that's my point. The town of Lake George has been very active in the grant program. There's a lot of money out there earmarked for things that we want to do that we are unable to get.
Yeah.
And it's an annual thing. Every year you apply on a certain date, then they announce the things, and then you wait till next year. So it's a long, drawn-out process if you don't get it right away. And the other thing is, I would be reluctant to move ahead with it if we're participating financially without knowing how much it's
Right
gonna
now, we
be.
have no financial commitment.
To the
Supervisor
magic
Brock?
word.
Yeah, how long would all this take? I mean, are we gonna be retiring from the Board of Supervisors by the time they get
Hopefully.
Hey, Jim, that's true. That study alone, to do that study, if I recall from the previous one, that was I think at least a year-long study before they came out with a report.
plus the time to get the grant, plus, I mean, it seems we have the resources to do a lot of this, to sort of figure out, to sort of get close to it before we even invest money in it. I would think we could figure out first what it looks like in general sense, and then then we could decide whether to do this or not.
Well, they need to sit down with a consultant and tell them what they're gonna give them. And then the consultants will tell them how much it's gonna be.
We are elected to do a lot of these kind of things on our own. That's my interpretation of why we're elected, that is, and I understand some of that interpretation is gonna differ, but I don't think we need to, basically take 18 months out of the process when it's something that we can generally, take on ourselves.
It's my understanding too, just for the committee's awareness, we're Warren County up here. We have no financial commitment. This is something the city is proposing. And there are legacy costs, and there are other things that continue out down the road that the studies, such as the one the sheriff is referencing, they're recommended that you do because they're an independent analysis. You have your unions, you have your civil service. There's a number of things that, if you're talking about putting the county, now you're starting to commit significant county time, resources, money, and the county hasn't even decided if they want to go ahead with it at this point. The city is proposing it, and the chairman has suggested that the city, they have the city itself has suggested that they would apply for consolidation money. There's no hurt in allowing the city, or not that we can allow them or not, but suggesting to them that they go ahead with that. Certainly any money that would assist the process would be wise, and at this point, just looking at it from a bird's eye view, it looks like a lot of the onus is on the city for the next steps, and that's why we really do need to establish a timeline and what needs to be done when. Even consolidation, and the sheriff, I think, can back this up, it will not happen in the next year, even if we wanted to speed it right along. It's still going to be a long process. Would you say, Sheriff? That'd be correct?
Yeah, I mean, 8 years in Chautauqua County, what happens, folks, is when you get involved in these studies, you get the emotional side of it, okay? And you'll have the two factions, the factions that want to do it and the factions that don't want to do it. And even after the study comes out, those same factions are still fighting. In Chautauqua County, I talked to the sheriff last month, and he said they're still fighting over little nuances, that they can't come up with what they want to do. So I think it's real important that the people get involved with this, you know, not just the political entities. If the people want to do this, they should have their voice, they should say they want to do it. If they do, and then you go ahead with a study, and then you can really see what it's going to cost. Right now, I'm seeing all these costs thrown around here. We don't have an idea of cost, and I know, Mr. Brock, you came up with a $900,000 figure that says that's what Warren County gets for patrol services in the city of Glens Falls. I've got no line item in my budget that says I got $900,000 for patrol officers. I don't know what that number represents. So I think if you're gonna do the study, you do it and you get some actual concrete numbers. Too many numbers are being thrown around and they're not accurate. We need accurate numbers on both sides. So you gotta start walking first before you run.
Supervisor Brock?
Yeah, the 900,000, I can send you the figures, but they were verified by Mike Swan from the treasurer's office.
Mike, but there's nothing in my line item of budget that says that I have $900,000 for patrol officers in the city of Glens Falls. Nowhere does that say that in my budget. I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, I'll send you the
I
figures.
saw it. Nowhere does it say that.
No one said there was a line item.
There is no line item in the sheriff's budget anywhere for $900,000 for patrol services in the city of Glens Falls. Nowhere.
Right, no one said there was.
All right,
That's
Chairman?
what everybody's saying.
Chairman Garrity had a question?
Well, no, I'm just saying, you know, you should take time to look at the Jamestown study. There's a lot of good information by doing an outside study, you know, and then this still is all Glens Falls. It's up to people in Glens Falls whether they want to pay for the police department. All I'm saying, let's get some factual information. That if you read the Jamestown study, it was detailed. I've read different scenarios now, a number of officers. I've seen it go from 23 to 28 and back and forth. If you get a consultant who doesn't have a dime in it, you can work with the city. There's money available for the city. If Jack really wants, if the mayor wants to do it correctly, you should look at that. I mean, if you read that study, it's pretty in-depth, and it does have 3 or 4 different models. That's the one study by that group, and I talked this over with the sheriff. We feel that this is the proper way of doing it without making knee-jerk, emotional reaction to this. You know, we get a number thrown at us. We don't know what's behind the number. I mean, the first time I took it and I divided it by 23 and it came out to $60,000 per person, I guess. The next time I didn't even bother to do that because I just don't think we got enough information. We need to be fair to both sides and get the proper information. If it takes time, it takes time. And then this will turn into an emotional issue. So that's all I'm asking is, you know, the onus is on the city. If they really want to do this, let the city go forward. Certainly, we could work with them and answer their questions. I don't think we have the time to send somebody up there. Our expertise up here to spend all this time calculating all these unknowns. And there are unknowns in this, too.
Supervisor Dickinson?
I'd like to make a motion, we accept this letter.
Okay, and send it on to the sheriff's office. Seconded by Supervisor Simpson. We'll get to discussion, Matt. Hang in there. We gotta get a second to get it on the floor. Now go ahead.
Basically, just want to piggyback on basically all 3 gentlemen who just spoke about that. This issue, I did do a little bit of, you know, reaching out to what some people would think about this. Yeah, you know, that's something that we've been talking about. Well, we don't even know what the voters really think about this in Glens Falls, the residents. So Jim Clark and I hosted a town hall meeting on Wednesday. Supervisor Bramer, Brock, and Sieber all attended. And generally, they pretty much feel Well, it is very much an emotional issue for them in terms of a paid police department. It's their own. It's one of the few things Glens Falls has, in terms of, you know, their high taxes. We all talk about it. We're all aware of it. They're okay with, tax money going to a paid police department. Beyond that, you know, it's unsustainable long term, so we need to look at ways to fix it. And they generally feel like, they do not want to see a diminishing of the services that they receive from their police department, but they also feel like they're in the dark with a lot of the numbers that you talked about. They feel like they're in the dark in terms of, well, we pay this much money to the county for Sheriff Road Patrol. Well, why can't we find out what that money actually goes towards? Because that presence of the Sheriff's Department is void in our lives, except for where our taxes are going. So that's something that is actually also of their concern. So maybe that's something that we can, that's something that on our end, you know, separate from the city, that, well, if this is money coming from the county, can we produce an itemized, you know, where this money's going? Is that something that we can provide?
Yeah, well, I think that's a great question, Matt, and that's the question that I have. I would love to sit down with the treasurer's office, with Joanne McKinstry and with the chairman, and to see where those numbers are coming from. I don't wanna sound like I'm being, against anything or for anything, but I like accuracy. I really like accuracy. And if there's 940,000 or whatever you said, Mr. Brock, that is relegated for sheriff's patrol officers in the city of Glens Falls, I want to know it. 'Cause I've been sheriff 8 years, and I have not seen that. I have no knowledge. We don't go into the city of Glens Falls unless they call and ask us. If they ask for assistance, we'll go and help them. They have a police department that handles everything in the city of Glens Falls. But I have not seen anywhere that says that 900,000 is relegated for patrol officers. Now, does our corrections have a lot to do with the city of Glens Falls? Absolutely. Our corrections officers are constantly picking up inmates of arrestees from the city of Glens Falls, and we're housing them in our jail. And we did figure out those numbers some 7-8 years ago, what those numbers are worth at Glens Falls, and I think it was over $1 million of inmates from the city of Glens Falls. So that's the only thing that I've ever done in 8 years relative to what's it costing the county taxpayers for assistance to the city of Glens Falls, and it just had to do with corrections. But I don't know what that 900,000, I'd like to sit down and find out what it is, but it's not relegated for patrol officers.
All right, we have a motion and a second on the floor. Do we have any more comments regarding the letter? Supervisor Sieber.
Regarding the letter?
Regarding the letter.
Of course. I think this is a great start. I certainly support it, and I think that I listened to Jim Clark from Glens Falls say that this dialogue is all good. You know, it's never a bad thing to start having dialogue. And if there's money available and it's grant funded, and clearly the state has been pushing shared services for a long time, I'm sure the money is available without a match to the county, then, you know, let's get that factual information. And I think that's what the sheriff's frustration, not to speak on your behalf, but is to get that accuracy. So I definitely support that step forward.
All right, any other comments regarding the letter? Claudia?
I just want to throw out there that I do support the first paragraph. I think it's appropriate to have a timeline of the legally necessary steps. I'm not sure the study is right at this time. We have to lay out some more of the numbers using the resources that we have, and I'm not sure that we should be spending money, I'm talking about the city right now.
Okay.
Money on a study and, you know, paying a consultant to figure that out right now, if there's things that we can do first inside our own city to lay it out in a way that will make the sheriff comfortable that we have presented everything accurately.
I think you're right, that is more up to the city.
This is a suggestion to the city, I'm okay with the letter.
Yeah, that's all it is,
That's
it's
how
just
it
a
reads to me.
suggestion.
We're suggesting you do this, but the city can do what they want. If they can't find the money, maybe they don't get it.
It's completely up to the city. The chairman, I think, as he put this together, was just seeking to assist in keeping the process open and moving forward, possibly with some suggestions that the city might try. You know, what they do is up to them entirely. They can take their suggestions or leave them, but we did want to be responsive. Any other questions regarding the letter, Sheriff?
Yeah, I want to make it completely clear that you folks know where I'm coming from. And I've discussed this with the chairman. I think it is up to the county to make sure that everybody every town in the city of Glens Falls prospers. And none of us wanna see the city of Glens Falls go under because of budgeting problems. So I think it is incumbent upon you folks to help in this issue, and I think this is a great start. This letter to me is the right start, to see if that's something, you know, if the city is gonna go under because of their police department, which I'm not convinced it is, then we need to help. But this is the correct start, and I think we need to be partners with the city of Glens Falls in this, and I think the chairman feels that way. I spoke to him earlier about it, I don't think he's against it, and I know, Madam Chairwoman, you feel the same way, so.
Certainly do. At this point, I'm gonna, because of the interest of time, I'm gonna call the question. We've had a lot of discussion. All those in favor of sending the letter? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, I don't hear any opposed.
Well,
Jim, is it quick? Because I wanna,
Yeah, I
I
was
see
just
some
gonna
people, I wanna make
add-
sure we have time for privilege of the floor.
Right, but I was gonna add, can we put that this does not end the conversation? Can we add that into it?
I
so
don't
that-
think that this would necessarily end the conversation. I think it's more of an opening.
I look forward to your response.
Yes, we're asking for a response, so it seems that the conversation would be ongoing.
Well, I only read it quickly, so.
Okay. In that case, I'd ask Supervisor Conover, do you have?
Yeah, you were saying the 2014 report, is it possible to get that posted on the internet site so people can pull up that report?
I imagine we could get it on the internet. We've circulated it fairly widely.
No, the 2014 consolidation report that was...
The DCGS study that was done.
We still have it, right, Sean?
Yep, we still have it.
Get it to, Amanda, and then she can.
Don't you think that would be good to at least post that and...
Certainly.
Yeah, the DCGS is not as in-depth as it should be,
Sure, I
but
understand.
it is there, yes.
Well, if we're gonna recite it, I think people should have access to it.
Certainly. Okay, do we have anybody who'd like to come before the committee and speak today? Yes, if you could just step to the podium and state your name.
My name is Jared Smith. I'm the president of the Glens Falls PBA. My purpose of coming today is to introduce myself and to see if anybody has any questions. Obviously, this is in regards to consolidation. Obviously, this is a very emotional proposition for a lot of people, for the PBA, for the members, for the public, everybody involved. So I just want to, let it be known that the PBA is here to help, okay? Obviously, we're against consolidation, okay? But it's your choice and the city's choice that this goes through. If this goes through, then, and this is what the people of the city of Glens Falls really want, then the PBA has no choice but to help in this process, okay? We serve the people, that's what we do. And who are we to say, to fight that process if that's what's decided that's going to happen by the people, okay? If you have any questions for me, I've done a lot of research, I've been in contact with a lot of people. From the PBA's point of view, it has, there's a lot of issues involved. This is a lengthy process, as the sheriff has indicated, and if you have any questions for me, please reach out to me, okay? The PBA plans on doing what they need to do to protect their members. That being said, we plan on following the legal process that has to be done. And I think this letter, I didn't read the letter, but it sounds like it's the next step to figure out what needs to be done. From this point, back, all any of us have heard are the numbers. All right. Well, the numbers are only a portion of this whole process. So, does anybody have any questions for me?
Supervisor McDonald?
While you're here, what kind of logistical issues, say this did progress to the point where you did have to become involved and start, negotiating this process, what kind of things should the city and the county anticipate? You obviously see the difficulty that we have just in this room, and you also have familiarity with the city, but where's your part in this? What kind of logistics?
The PBA's part?
Yes.
Well, as to my understanding, there's been talk about, does there need to be a referendum, okay? We have reached out to our attorney, who is the attorney for PCNY, which represents, every police agency in the state of New York, for the most part, including the state police, numerous sheriff's departments, and, local municipalities. His opinion, to change the city charter, there has to be a referendum. Now, to say to change the city charter is you're changing law, and within that city charter, the police department is in there and is regulated by the city charter. So if you're going to take the police department out of the city charter, you're changing the law, therefore that needs to be a referendum, okay? The city's attorney has looked into it, and they have indicated that that's not the case. So obviously now you have two attorneys who have different opinions. So the only way to really figure that out would be to have a judge decide. So if it gets to that point where everything is moved forward, the PBA is prepared to file a lawsuit to have a judge decide if there's going to be a referendum or not. That's the position of the PBA. There's civil service law that's involved in this process. It's just a very lengthy process. I hope I answered your question, Matt.
Supervisor Beatty?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Would the PBA be supportive of a non-binding referendum? Because you mentioned that you'd like to know what the people of Glens Falls, whether they want to or not. I'm just throwing that out there, that you guys would be really against having this a referendum because it's a change in the city charter. But would the PBA be supportive of a non-binding resolution referendum?
Absolutely, we would. The position of the PBA is we want the people to decide whether or not they want their police department, okay? And you also have the county people, residents, businesses, taxpayers, who should also have a say in it because it's going to affect them, regardless of if the city pays for it, you know, for the first 15 years, like the proposal says, well, someone's picking that up at the end of that 15 years, and that's us. I live in Warren County, I own a home in Warren County, that's me as well. So, to answer your question, yes, the PBA would be more than willing to have a referendum. But, you know, I understand a referendum has to come, you know, during election time, okay? If the city wants to hold a referendum, a public referendum, just to get the opinion, do the residents and taxpayers in the city of Glens Falls want their police department? I really think that's the first step.
All right, I would encourage anybody who has questions to contact Mr. Smith, and I thank you for your time today. Is there anybody else who wishes to address the committee? All right, hearing none, I'd ask for a motion to adjourn. Supervisor Dickinson, second by Supervisor Simpson. All those in favor? Aye.
When
Thank
you got that surgery, your arm went.
you.